Repetition is super important because the power of not being able to quit, no matter what it is and no matter how boring it is the only way you're going to build any skill or any value in anything you're trying to do in this life. In order to get good at any endeavor you want to get good at, you are going to have to put a lot of reps in. That's the thing with literally everything in this life, whether it's the gym, whether it's something in school, whether it's something outside of those that you're just trying to learn or get better at, you need a lot of reps. So why does anyone care about repetition and what is important about it? So let me just say myself, I used to be fat, I used to be ugly and an absolute loser. I didn't do anything. And then I went to the gym and put a bunch of reps into the gym. But I'm telling you, when I started putting more reps into the gym, when I started going and eating better, when I started taking better care of myself, but it took a lot of time because I had to put the repetition in, the difference is immeasurable. Thank God I started taking better care of myself. If not for taking better care of myself, like I just said, then I would not have ever figured out how repetition really works. You can't just do things one time and expect to be the best at them. You literally need repetition in every endeavor in your life. One thing you have to realize is we've been doing repetition since we were a child. Think about learning how to walk, thinking about learning how to ride a bike, thinking about learning how to talk. These are all things that took a lot of repetition. So every single thing in your life is repetition. The daily habits you do is you just getting repetition in whatever you choose. You can be getting more repetition in, the gym, in learning and reading, or you're getting more repetition in scrolling and doing nothing or playing video games. Regardless, you're getting repetition in something every single day. So yeah, that's why everyone should care about repetition, because no matter if you acknowledge its existence or not, you're still getting those reps in every single day. The amount of repetition you put in to something is going to be correspondent to how hard or easy that thing is and how valuable that thing is towards your life. You want a good example? Use sales. If you want to get good at sales, you're going to have to put in a lot of repetition, a lot of mock calls, a lot of fake drill calls, a lot of real calls as well, and a lot of reviewing. It's a lot of repetition to get good at something like sales. Whereas with something like walking, it took so much practice attempts for us to learn how to walk. It was not easy for anyone, but we were all babies, so we don't really understand. But walking is the best example. Super valuable skill, super valuable trade-off, takes a lot of time. A lot of animals, are born with the ability to walk, but it's not as valuable to them as it is for us. Even driving. Learning how to drive takes a good amount of repetition. It might not be, the most amount of repetition ever because it's been simplified so much. But if you're trying to learn how to drive shift, if you're trying to learn how to drive supercar, things like that, you're going to need to have some practice in. And then the more reps you put in is the difference between an amateur and a pro. That's why it's so much easier for someone to become a League of Legends esports pro. That's why it's so much harder, for someone to become a League of Legends esports pro than it is for someone to pick up a game like Super Mario. It's super accepting for everyone. And yes, it's still going to be a little bit harder for someone who's never played video games at all to get that repetition in, but then it's going to be way harder for them to become a pro at League. The amount of repetition you need to put in to get good at a game like League of Legends compared to a game like Super Mario, it's not even comparable. And that's why I'm saying repetition is super correspondent to whatever you are trying to do. If you're trying to get better at something and you want to be one of the best, it just means more reps, more review, more practice. Most of the time, if someone's better at something than you, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's basketball, whether it's even just working out in general or having a better headspace, it's due to the sheer amount of repetition they have over you. And that's pretty much everything. Experience is repetition, and everything in this life is repetition. There's not a single thing I can think of in this life that's worth taking your time to do, that takes a lot of effort and skill that you don't need a lot of repetition to do. Business, being fit, learning a high value skill, becoming a person of influence. All these things require different repetitions. Even traveling. For me, I had to travel a lot before I could even travel to another country because it took a decent bit of repetition with being comfortable traveling, being comfortable with airplanes, being comfortable being able to pack, and being able to do things that were out of my comfort zone repeatedly before I could even make a decision to come out of here. That's why I'm saying repetition is super important. It's one of the most important skills you can learn, and it's very valuable. In order to apply repetition, it is crucial that you don't overload yourself. The thing with repetition is you can start right now. Just make sure you always start with smaller steps, doing things that are easier to start out with, and then scale up to the harder steps. Scale up to the things that might be a little bit longer or extended. Always start out with the easier steps. So maybe start out with doing something for 2 to 5 minutes, right? But then always scale up to the harder steps later. So then maybe that activity you did for 2 to 5 minutes, you start doing it for 10 to 20 minutes or even longer. For me with the gym, this is the perfect example. It took me a while before I could start going consistently for an hour plus. When I first started going to the gym, I was going for 30 minutes to 45 minutes max. I was just getting on a couple machines, working it out, trying things, just trying to be comfortable in the environment. But then once I started understanding the gym better, understanding what I needed to do better in the gym, and understanding what type of workouts I enjoyed, I then built a routine, and that's when I started getting more strict and stricter. It took time. I didn't just hop into the gym, handle a diet, and start going from there. It took a lot of time to develop my skills. It took a lot of time to understand form, and it took a lot of time to really get truly as comfortable in the gym as I am now. And so now I don't even have to negotiate with myself to go to the gym. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do in the gym. I have it all planned out and everything. But it took so much repetition and so many years to get to this point. That's why it's important that you start out small and you get big. Because the thing with the gym is the perfect example. Most people, they don't start small. They say, I'm going to take on this crazy diet. I'm going to go to the gym every single day and work myself out as hard as I can. And I'm just going to go crazy. If you start out like that, you're not going to want to ever go back to the gym. That's why so many people start and then quit. They don't understand how working out works, but it's not even just that. They don't understand that the gym and most things in this life, especially good habits, take a good amount of repetition to get comfortable to, as well as when you start, you don't want to start a habit the same way you are doing it 3 to 5 years down the line. When you start a habit, you want to start smaller and then start doing more and more and more, or else you will not get as good as you're supposed to get. Meditation is also a good example. If you want to meditate, then you would like to start for, let's say 2 minutes, and then you want to scale up as you build the tolerance. When I go to the gym, go for like 10 to 20 minutes and then make it a habit. But do not overload yourself, and realize the most important factor of repetition is that the results are delayed always with things that are worth the time. So if you are trying to build a lot of repetition in something, and so if you're doing something with repetition, please do not focus on the results only. Only focus on inputs, not outputs. You want to get better at a skill? Focus on how much effort you're putting in, not what's happening as a result. You want to get better at going to the gym? Focus on how many times you're going throughout the week and how long, and not what your body looks like. You want to get better at meditating? Focus on how many times you have meditated and how long, instead of how your mind feels and how your body feels. As you get better at these skills, then you can start focusing on results. But first, it takes a lot of repetition to even build the habit to do these skills. As you do these skills, though, and as you're building the habit for these skills, you will notice that it will get a lot easier. You'll build a better sense of confidence and a better sense of tolerance towards the things you're trying to do that might have been once hard. And that's why the gym is such a good example. So many people started suffering going to the gym, started struggling to go to the gym. But then eventually, years down the line, with the more reps and the more they do, they don't even struggle with it or even consider it a hard thing to do any longer. But they never start out that way. And that's why I'm saying, with repetition, anything worth it takes a long time to get into. Let's get into it with Jerome and Phil now, because Jerome and Phil are the perfect example of why you need repetition and why it matters so much. These are the same people, practically, doing the same things, but one understands the idea of repetition and one doesn't. The thing with Jerome is he goes to the gym consistently. He doesn't care if he misses a day, because then he's going harder the next day. And he does everything in his power not to miss a day, because he understands that the fact of consistency is the fact of going every single day and making sure you make up for those days you miss. He understands that his body isn't going to switch immediately, but through time, through effort, and through repetition, his body will eventually become the way he wants to be. Jerome knows that through reps is how you build habits. Through reps is how you become the better version of yourself, and you build that tolerance in your brain. He eases into habits. So let's say Jerome is trying to learn how to read. He'll start by reading 10 minutes a day, and then he'll eventually scale up from 10 to 20 to 20 to 30 to an hour. And that's why Jerome always wins And that's why Jerome always wins in the last. And that's why Jerome always wins in the end, because Phil is always trying to speed run things. He's always trying to get things as done as possible. And the thing is, when you're trying to do things as fast as possible, you're trying to learn a skill as fast as possible, you're always destined to burn out, because your body and your brain is like a computer. You cannot just start loading up 5 different games on your computer and expect it to run. Your shit's gonna blow up. And that's the problem Phil has. He's always blowing his brain the fuck up. He does a habit for like a week, trying his absolute hardest, giving it his all, and he expects results. But then when it doesn't have the results he wants, he just gives up. That's not how you're going to learn or gain or get better at anything in this life. And yeah, he quits way too early because he tries way too hard too fast. He expects the reps to have immediate results. He does not want to wait. And he only uses motivation to get the reps. Whereas Jerome uses discipline to get the reps, and he knows that the results are going to be delayed. And this is the difference. If you personally do not start applying this to your life, you're always going to quit things way too easy, way too fast, and way before you actually know if it's worth it for you or not. There's a saying, hard work beats talent. The saying is, talent beats hard work, but hard work works harder than talent. And that's the thing with repetition. You will never know if you're talented in something or better than someone talented unless you try harder than them, work harder than them, and put more effort in it than them. And that's why I thought this video was super crucial to get out to you guys today, because I know a lot of people out there quit way too early on their goals because they don't put in enough reps. And I know this because personally, I've done it the same. I have quit YouTube multiple times. Not really quit, but like taken long, extended periods of breaks because I didn't understand the value of consistency. I didn't understand the power of compounding. I didn't understand how much reps it really takes to get good at things. I've quit YouTube. I keep saying quit. I took breaks on YouTube. I took breaks in video games. I took breaks in sports. Everything, every single thing. I've done it in the past before because I didn't understand the value behind it. It's super important to me that you guys understand repetition and apply it to your guys' life. So that'll be it for today's video. Next video will be based on faith. And faith is super crucial with repetition because if you can't have that faith that these things will be worth it in the end, then you won't be able to get the reps in that you need to get good at things. So peace, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you learned something, make sure you drop a comment.